Delivering this week's must-watch workplace storylines, this is Bloomberg Law's Punching In, for those of you listening in Washington and across the globe.
Hi, and thanks for punching in with us. I'm Hassan Kanu. For our first item today, my colleague Jaclyn Diaz from the Labor and Employment Desk will join us. Hi, Jaclyn.
Hey, Hassan.
Now, Jaclyn, I understand you've been reporting on ALJs and some legislation related to administrative law judges. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So administrative law judges are actually different from court judges, though they do decide cases as well. ALJs work at the DOL and other federal agencies, and they resolve cases which can include a business interfering in workers' organizing, a discrimination complaint, and other legal disputes brought to those agencies.
And so what does the legislation, what does the bill do in particular?
This bill would actually undo a recent executive order from President Trump, which required ALJs to be chosen by agency heads. And this made a big change to how judges were hired in the past, which included a long hiring process through the Office of Personnel Management. Trump made this change after a June Supreme Court ruling, which found ALJs are constitutional officers and actually cast doubt on whether some appointments at agencies were properly handled.
Gotcha. And so does the bill introduce any new processes, or does it essentially reverse the Trump order?
Sure. So it actually would reverse the Trump order, and it would reinstate the old hiring system where OPM narrows down a list of candidates for an agency head to then appoint.
And what are the odds that this bill actually gets some movement here?
Not too good. It might be too late this year, but the Association of ALJs, which is the union representing these jurists, are hoping this is handled through legislation, but eventually, but they haven't ruled out their own litigation.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Jaclyn.
Thank you.
And now for our second story this week. The Steelworkers Union, that's the USW, they're pushing Congress to ensure that Trump's NAFTA 2.0 deal has better protections for Mexican workers. Now, U.S. workers, of course, have various protections under federal law. There's minimum wages, minimum ages as well, worker safety provisions. Of course, some states go even further than the federal government does. The issue here began because union workers at a Goodyear tire plant in Mexico are apparently getting death threats. Those workers at the plant have been speaking up about their workers' rights. The group actually staged a one-day strike in April. They were protesting their pay, of course, and their working conditions. So the USW is saying that the threats they received is actually not totally uncommon, that those sort of working-class jobs, sort of blue-collar folks in Mexico are actually in real danger when they make these sort of protests. 2 protesters were actually shot and killed at a gold mine in a city called Acapulco, which does actually happen to be a particularly dangerous city, but that nonetheless those folks were killed. So we'll be tracking that issue, tracking the USW's push to see if Congress or the White House does agree to sort of beef up protections there for workers across the border. And finally for this week, we are resuming those judgeship rumors around Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. Those rumors are swirling again because of SCOTUS nominee Brett Kavanaugh as he's going through hearings on the Hill there. So we broke the news here a while back, of course, about Acosta's interest in being a judge, how a lot of people close to him and others around the agency think he's sort of being a bit middling on certain issues and keeping a low profile, sort of avoiding making any big splashes just because it's a lot easier to become a judge and get confirmed, as you can see in the Kavanaugh hearings, if you don't make your views very well known. So the relation there is Kavanaugh actually left open a seat on a federal appeals court here in D.C., on the D.C. circuit. And that's a very prestigious judgeship, much more than many other judgeships, I should say. It's often the path to a lifetime Supreme Court appointment. And actually, I always like to add in this part, that actually comes with summers off, just like school kids and college kids. So Merrick Garland is actually on that court after his failed appointment. Now, the reason this is something to actually keep an eye on, well, first and foremost, this administration is quite unpredictable. More importantly, though, Acosta has friends in high places in this situation. A gentleman named Leonard Leo, he heads the Federalist Society. He's reportedly handpicked a large number of Trump's judges, including Kavanaugh himself, and he's an ally of Acosta's in a sense. So there's plenty of other folks who are qualified and would love to be a federal judge. And Acosta is, of course, already in the administration. But that said, the Leo connection does go a long way, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one as Kavanaugh goes through his hearings, and we'll report that one for you. All right, folks, that is it. That is the sum of our Monday morning musings for this week. Make sure you punch in with us next Monday. Thanks a lot.